The rain-slicked streets of London glimmered under the sodium glow of streetlights, a city caught in the restless churn of 1955. Ruth Ellis, blonde and sharp as a switchblade, leaned against the bar of the little club in Knightsbridge. Her eyes, framed by dark lashes, scanned the room with a practiced ease. She was 28, a nightclub manager with a smile that could coax a man's secrets or break his heart. Tonight, though, her gaze wasn't for the punters nursing their whiskeys. It was for him, David Blakely, the racing driver with a grin like a lit fuse. David slouched at a corner table, his tie loose, a glass of gin sweating in his hand. He was 25, all charm and reckless ambition, the kind of man who lived for speed, on the track and off it. Ruth had known him for 2 years, a whirlwind of passion and pain that left her dizzy. He was her lover, her obsession, her ruin. Their affair was a collision of fire and gasoline, fueled by jealousy, booze, and the kind of love that cuts deeper than hate. "Another round, Ruth?" the barman asked, wiping a glass. She shook her head, her platinum curls catching the light. "Not tonight, Charlie. I'm watching." Charlie followed her gaze to David, who was laughing too loudly with a brunette in a red dress. "He's trouble, that one." Ruth's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Trouble's my specialty. It hadn't always been this way." Ruth had clawed her way up from a working-class childhood in Basingstoke, trading small-town dreams for the neon pulse of London. She'd married once, a brief mistake that left her with a son and a distrust of promises. The nightclub world suited her, glamour with an edge, where she could wield her beauty like a weapon. David, though, was different. He'd crashed into her life at the steering wheel club, all boyish charm and petrol-stained hands, promising her the world between kisses. But promises were fragile things. David was a man of appetites, for cars, for women, for the thrill of the next race. Ruth gave him everything, her heart, her money, her pride. She paid for his drinks, his debts, even his dreams of building a racing car. In return, he gave her nights of ecstasy and days of torment. He'd disappear for weeks, chasing races or other women, only to return with apologies that melted her resolve. She forgave him, always, because love was a trap she couldn't escape. Tonight, the air felt heavier, charged with something final. Ruth had heard whispers. David was stepping out with that brunette, Carol, a society girl who could offer him the status Ruth never could. The thought gnawed at her, a splinter under her skin. She'd confronted him last week, her voice shaking as she demanded the truth. He'd laughed, called her paranoid, and kissed her until she forgot her anger. But the doubt lingered, and Ruth Ellis was not a woman who could live with shadows. She crossed the room, her heels clicking on the polished floor. David looked up as she approached, his eyes flickering with something. Guilt, maybe, or defiance. The brunette excused herself, sensing the storm. "Ruthie," David drawled, leaning back. "You're looking like trouble tonight." "Don't play cute," she said, her voice low. "Who's the girl?" He sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "Just a friend." "Christ, Ruth, not this again." "You're lying." Her fingers tightened around her clutch bag, where a small revolver nestled, cold and heavy. She bought it weeks ago, a desperate impulse after one of their fights. She hadn't planned to use it, not really. It was a prop, a way to feel in control. But control was slipping now, like sand through her fingers. "Ruth, let's not do this here." David stood, his height looming over her. "Come outside." They stepped into the alley behind the club, the rain misting their faces. The city hummed around them, cars hissing past, distant laughter from a pub. Ruth's heart pounded, a drumbeat of rage and hurt. "Tell me the truth," she said, her voice breaking. "Are you leaving me for her?" David's jaw tightened. "You're suffocating me, Ruth. I can't breathe with you always watching, always accusing." The words hit like a slap. She saw their life together, nights tangled in sheets, mornings arguing over nothing, the way he'd whisper her name like a prayer. All of it crumbling. Her hand moved before she could think, pulling the revolver from her bag. David's eyes widened, but he didn't move. "Ruth, put that down," he said, his voice steady but laced with fear. She didn't want to shoot. She wanted him to beg, to promise, to love her again. But his face was hard, his eyes cold, and she saw the truth. He was already gone. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The first shot cracked the night, a sound that echoed in her bones. David staggered, clutching his chest. She fired again, and again, each bullet a scream she couldn't voice. He fell, his body crumpling against the wet cobblestones, blood pooling beneath him. The revolver slipped from her hand, clattering to the ground. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the world rushed back, shouts from the club, footsteps running toward them. Ruth stood frozen, staring at David's body. She felt no regret, only a strange calm, as if the storm inside her had finally broken. The police arrived quickly, their faces grim as they cuffed her wrists. "Ruth Ellis, you're under arrest for the murder of David Blakely," one said, his voice flat. She nodded, her eyes still on David. "I meant to kill him," she said softly. "He deserved it." The trial was a spectacle, splashed across every newspaper in Britain. Ruth Ellis, the glamorous blonde who'd gunned down her lover in a fit of passion. The prosecution painted her as a cold-blooded killer, a woman scorned who'd planned her revenge. Her defense argued she was a victim of abuse, driven to madness by David's cruelty. The truth, as always, was messy, a tangle of love, betrayal, and desperation. Ruth took the stand in a black suit, her face pale but composed. She didn't flinch under the barrage of questions, her voice clear as she recounted their affair, the fights, the moments of tenderness. "I loved him," she said, her eyes meeting the jury's. "But he broke me." The jury deliberated for 20 minutes. "Guilty." The judge's voice was a hammer. "Ruth Ellis, you will be taken hence to the place of execution, and there you will be hanged by the neck until you are dead." The courtroom gasped, but Ruth only nodded. She'd known the cost of her choice that night in the alley. She paid it willingly. On July 13th, 1955, Ruth Ellis walked to the gallows at Holloway Prison. She was 28, the last woman to be hanged in Britain. Her death sparked outrage, fueling debates about capital punishment and the fairness of her trial. Some called her a monster, others a martyr. To most, she was a mystery, a woman who loved too fiercely, who burned too brightly, and who paid the ultimate price for it. In the end, Ruth's story wasn't about justice or vengeance. It was about a woman caught in a world that offered her no mercy, and a love that consumed her until there was nothing left but ash. As the trapdoor fell, she didn't scream or cry. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she was free.